Welcome to Pastor's Corner. I am Pastor Kelly Milne, and I have with me the Reverend Dr. Donna Keene. And we are continuing our series on a multiple array of topics. And today we've chosen a very simple topic. And we're going to discuss spirituality. It is a pretty broad subject, and we could spend months, years, talking about spirituality, but we're going to try and break it down and bring it down to earth. So the first thing that I think maybe we should do, what's a good definition of spirituality? What's a good place to start when we start thinking about it?
Well, my favorite way to start thinking about spirituality is to look at what do we mean by spirit. And spirit, to me, is the nature of the person. In other words, I don't think that I am in a body looking for a spirit. I think I am a spirit that is housed in my body. And so the first thing that I have always said is we have to get in touch with the idea that we already have a spirit. We are a spirit. Now, some of the things that happen to us in our lives, we can pretty well figure out when my spirit is up or down, or absent and doesn't feel as though it's around. And that's when we can look to either scripture, or we can look to another person, or we can look to read something that will touch our spirit. And therefore, we can go looking for those things that will increase our spirituality.
So if I wanted to increase my spirituality, do I have to go to church?
No.
Can I do it at home?
Sure. You can do it on the John.
Oh, I suppose I could. What about, do I need to be in a group of people?
No. Sometimes people believe that it's easier to get in touch with spirituality if they can talk about it in a group. But there are other people, some of them are just much more comfortable being alone and either reading something, watching something on television, talking on the phone with somebody, or just being at peace, staring out the window at a cloud.
Or sitting in front of the window with a cup of tea watching the snowfall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is one thing for me. So when we say that we're searching for spirituality, what are we searching for? Do we need to search for, let's see, a specific name? Or does it have to be God? Can it be, well, I would imagine Buddha would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe that?
A search for spirituality, I'm not sure it has to be a person. Mm-hmm. I think it's a feeling. It can also be a thought process. It could even be just, as you say, sitting with a cup of tea and feeling different. Now, a lot of people will describe they have this wonderful aha moment in their life, and they move beyond it with a different sense of themselves and who they are as a person. And other people will take years to go and study and read and go to groups and maybe never get that feeling. But there is a shift that happens in our spirit that if I know a very good holy man who was a Jesuit priest, and I went up to him once and I said, how do I know if I've had a spiritual experience? He said, well, do you want to shout it from the rooftop, tell the world, and let everybody have the same experience? I said, yeah, I do. He said, at the same time, do you want to hold it in your heart and never tell anybody about it because it's too important to share with anyone? I said, yeah, I do. He said, you've had a spiritual experience.
It's true. There's a transformation that takes place.
Mm-hmm.
And gee, I mean, that transformation can be anything.
Yeah.
And I think it just depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on what that moment is. And did it just happen? Were they actually searching?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's amazing when it just happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Equally as amazing when it's being searched for.
Yes.
I know that I've had 3 specific transformations in my life,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say that they each keep getting deeper and deeper
Mm-hmm.
and deeper. And it's encouraging to know that we can do that,
Mm-hmm.
that we can have those experiences.
Yep.
And if we want to share, we can share.
Yep. Some people don't go looking for them and they happen. Other people will search for years and not have any kind of a transformational experience. Mm-hmm. The first thing I think that I try to talk with people about is they have to be open to it. If you're going searching for it, you're open to it. But sometimes things happen that you don't explain, you can't, you're not ready for them. They kind of drop out of the sky, and all of a sudden there's something different. And you didn't look for it, but something in your spirit is ready for that transformational moment. And it's wonderful when it happens, but we can't stay there. We have to move in this world, in the natural world. And all it does, though, is really transform our spirit into something either deeper or more solid or more trustworthy, so that when we do function in the natural world, this world, we feel confident that we're on the right track.
That's a lot to take in.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And I think to realize that as human beings, and we have to remember that we are human beings.
With all of our faults.
Yep, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to mess up. You know, we just need to ask whatever spiritual being, supreme being, however we want to call it, that we're forming that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, making it a personal journey, whether it's, you know, with God or Buddha or whatever you're seeking.
Or just the force.
This is true.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of names for it. Yeah, this is a lot to take in.
Yep.
Do you have anything else that might help somebody who is searching? Where do you start? You know, you've had maybe a traumatic event, or
Mm-hmm.
something is triggered inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't be here all alone,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm feeling so alone. There must be something.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really where it starts. It starts with an awareness in myself that there's something more that sometimes I've described it as there was a hole that needed to be filled. And I might try to fill that hole with people or food or drink or religiosity or whatever. But it's recognizing that there's something missing and then going in search of it. And some people will do it. They'll go on a journey. I'm reminded of the journey, and I don't know what it's called, but there is a path in the northern part of Spain that people do as a journey to a destination, to a cathedral. And they say it's life-changing. People find their own way to whatever is greater than themselves. And just acknowledging that there is a missing part and that there must be something greater than me, and then going to look for it. There's so many different ways in which people take that journey. And religion can help, but I'm not sure that it is the only way. I think there are people who are looking for spirituality who would never set foot in a church, or for whatever reason, doesn't matter. But there are other people who can go to church all their lives and not get in touch with their own spirituality. So it's a toss-up.
Yeah, and that's I think something that our world is moving towards. I think people are searching. They're not sure what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I would say generationally, they've been taught, well, if I am going to do something with spiritualness or spirituality, I need to be in a church.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we know, no, you don't have to be in a church, but it's there.
Yeah.
And that could be a good starting point,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go off. But that could be the best thing you ever did,
Mm-hmm.
was step foot into a church.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to step back
Mm-hmm.
if that's what your journey is leading towards.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think as pastors, we would all like to see our churches full to the brim. But the point is that you're getting what you need on a spiritual level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so important,
Mm-hmm.
that people realize that you need to do you. It's
Mhm.
your journey.
Right. Right. There's so many different ways in which people can approach spirituality. I basically think that if we remember that we are spirits in a body, personally, I believe that my spirit is trying to get in touch with God's Spirit, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. It emanates into our world, and I'd like to feel connected to it.
Let's take a quick break,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll come back and continue the conversation.
Hey, check it out. Huh. What happened to that guy? Hey, get that sign back up!
You're not alone. Together we stand. I'll be by your side. You know I'll take your hand. When it gets cold and it feels like the end, there's no place to go. You know I won't give in. No, I won't give in.
Oh.
Keep holding on, 'cause you know we'll make it through, we'll make it through. Keep holding on.
Welcome back. See, that wasn't very long. So, thank you for joining us again. We're talking about spirituality, and we've talked about how we may be searching for spirituality, how we need to be open to the idea of this spiritualness. And without sounding like a broken record, the pandemic comes into play with spirituality or lack of spirituality. I personally still feel that there is this underlying something in our world, and that it's left over from the pandemic, from that isolation that, when everything was shut down, and for me it was unbelievable that a world could just be shut down, that everything could be shut down. A lot of people, and we have talked about grief in our previous 2 episodes, and how the pandemic affected people grief-wise, but spiritual-wise, if you were in that point of searching, and then all of a sudden you're shut off from everything. You're out there, you're looking, you're searching, you're reading books, you're talking to people, and then all of a sudden the impact on people and their spirituality, I think it's still lingering.
Yep.
I do. How do we come out of that?
Well, I think part of what's left over for me in talking with people is they don't like to admit it, but I think we were all afraid of dying. I mean, we watched so many people not get through the pandemic, and the numbers got astronomical. And it was worldwide. It wasn't just us. And so I think some of what happened for many people was their faith got shaken that we were going to make it, individually as well as a society. And so part of searching for the greater good or a higher power or a relationship with something that would comfort us, that it was going to be okay. See, I think that's also part of the search for a spiritual connection, is we want to know we're going to be okay. I mean, if you look at a little kid and they're crying, really what they want to know is they're going to be okay. And so all of the little kids inside of us as adults, we want to be okay. And if we weren't able to get together in our normal routine and talk to people, or if we were afraid that if we went into somebody's house, either we'd give them a virus or they'd give us a virus, I think loneliness started to creep in. And that can get in the way of believing in a spiritual connection, unless it's very strong. And it's also, it ebbs and flows, just like grief. You can have a very strong spiritual connection for a certain period of time, and then something can happen and you start to question it. And the pandemic happened and we started to question. And I think that's when a lot of people started searching for something, anything that would be comforting to them.
Right. And I can think of times during the pandemic. I know that there was a period of only a couple months where I didn't work. And at the time I was doing home health. So for me to just be home all of a sudden, all day, with my kids and my husband and the dog and the cats, and my faith was shaken, absolutely. absolutely. But then, you know, you get into this habit of watching the news. We were all glued to our televisions.
Mm-hmm.
There was no positive. There was no, you know, how do we get through this, all that thing, all of that. Until, I think for me, a turning point where I felt there was some hope was the effect of everything being shut down on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started thinking, oh, for me, this must be God's way of saying, hey, take a break,
Mm-hmm.
chill out, this can be done.
Mhm.
And now I look at today, and we're right back to where we were.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that the majority of people did get something out of that, did realize that there was some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we always hear, oh, there must be a reason, God has a reason. Sometimes no.
We just don't know it.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't get a heads up. I don't know if you, yeah.
I didn't
no.
get the memo either.
I know. Yeah, so, you know, if we're thinking back to what we were going through, there was a little bit of positive,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure that all of us know somebody who was affected
Mm-hmm.
by the pandemic, someone who passed, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that has its own set of issues.
Spiritual issues.
Spiritual
Mhm.
issues.
Right.
In fact, a very close friend of mine, husband passed away from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't have that closure.
Mm-hmm.
She was able to be with him, but there would have been many more people supporting, you know, being able to be supportive and to support, you know, her husband as he was going through it. But a lot of people couldn't get closure.
Yeah.
And that hurt you spiritually.
The other thing that I was so conscious of during that whole time frame were the caregivers. They were often the only person in the room when somebody died in a hospital.
Mhm.
And then they'd move into the next room and the same thing would happen. So imagine what that does to your spirit, especially knowing that there are family members who couldn't be there and the person who was all alone. Because I really think that isolation and loneliness is one of the most prevalent problems in our society today. That
Absolutely.
it is a spiritual deficit of feeling disconnected, feeling not able to reach out, feeling not able to be around the people that you love or who love you. And then to have them die, you couldn't even have a funeral. So there's a sense in which being disconnected from people, for some people, okay, they love to be alone. You know, it's like Greta Garbo, just leave me alone. But most people are still looking for some kind of a connection. And it's not always going to happen the way we expect it to. And we never know
Right.
how we touch other people's spirit at all,
Right.
unless they tell us.
That's true.
I just visited somebody in the hospital who said, "You've made my day because I know you're here."
Mhm.
I didn't do anything. I didn't even touch him. He just said, "You're here." Sometimes that's all we need to do to lift somebody's spirit,
Mhm.
is to let them know that we're here.
Absolutely. I was visiting my friend's dad in the hospital, and I walked into the room, and you know, did my normal self. And he said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I could just feel your spirit coming in." And that did a lot for me. You know, it did something for him, obviously, but it did something for me as well. And I think obviously, we need to focus on positive. We need to focus on searching for that goodness. And there is goodness in this world.
Yep.
There's a lot of it. You know, sometimes it may not seem that way. But I certainly would encourage everyone to search. Even if you have had a wonderful, strong faith your entire life, search again, search a little more.
I reread the Bible and I'll go, who put that there? I never noticed that before. And you know, I've read the whole thing several times through, but it depends on what I'm in a mood for, what my spirit is doing.
Right.
When I come to a passage, or even in a regular fictional novel, and I'm in a different place. And so it speaks to me differently, which is what my spirit needed to experience at that moment. Unbeknownst to me, you know, kind of
Right.
saying, hey, here I am, thanks. It's so almost mystical when you stop and think about what spirit is. My favorite, by the way, about the pandemic, my favorite quote from a gentleman that I study is that when things are not going well and they're very chaotic, that God comes along and he separates them until he can bring them back together in an orderly fashion, the way they are supposed to function. And there are so many times in my life when I have held on to that belief system that whatever's going on is chaos, but there is an end to it. And everything will come back and function the way it is supposed to.
Absolutely. And I actually have that sticky on my sewing machine through the pandemic.
Yep,
Chaos before order.
yep.
Same thing.
And that is true for a spiritual quest.
Absolutely.
Sometimes there's chaos before we get to the order.
Absolutely. So believe it or not, we've come to the end of our second segment, our third episode already. I can't wait to see what we come up with next. It's a mystery.
Yeah. The
But
spirit will move.
The spirit will move us.
Yes.
So I just thank everyone for watching and partaking, and we will have a way to reach out to us for the next episode, or we'll somehow get it into the post-production.
Yes.
So that if you want to send us questions or whatnot, we would love to answer them.
Sure.
So have a good night or day, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. And thanks.